yeah, so how do you find investors? Like knowing they came to you this time, but yeah, like how do you think you can find them? Like, I don't know.
Through relationships most of the time. And when I was in Dublin and we wanted to raise a seed round, I was, I knew a few startups in the market. Really, it's a small town, it's a small city, so it's just next door, right? So you start to know people as you go to events and everything. So there are always relationships where that work really well because you can ask for an introduction. But you can also look at, there are tons of sites that list investors and VCs in your city, right? And that's easy to just prepare a pitch deck, send it to a few investors that you've selected, and even call them directly on the phone. That works well. And they're pretty, well, it depends on different cultures, but I mean, they're pretty, they're used to see a lot of new entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and they're really welcoming most of the time. I'm not saying they're nice because they won't give you money, like this, but they're really welcoming and they listen to what you have to say, and that's great. And it's also a great way to connect.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically your network. I feel like that's the easiest part, like the easiest way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also you started your first startup at 24, right?
24, yeah, I think so. 25 maybe, something like that, yeah.
And that's still very young. So were you not taken seriously, or did you have any age-related issues?
I wouldn't say so. Most of the time I was considered as, being a fellow entrepreneur. And that felt good as well because there is no judgment, on the age. And I worked with really experienced people, that were 60, 70 years old, that were really, welcoming as well, very understanding of your inexperience in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's not really about the age, it's about the inexperience that might scare people and might scare investors, by the way. But, as long as you show them that you're serious, driven, and that you have results,
exactly,
the age won't matter,
Results, yeah.
Exactly, and the age won't matter. I mean, look at what Mark Zuckerberg did when he was even younger than 24.
19, I think.
Yeah, he was 19 or 20 or something like that. Yeah. It's quite amazing, and it was investors chasing him, despite his young age. So I'd say no, age is not a problem, and actually starting as young as possible is actually a very good idea, in my opinion.
Because you have less responsibilities, I think.
That is true, and then you also have less risk, and you get to learn a lot of things very early on. And even if you fail very young, that's not a problem. I mean, you would learn a lot faster and a lot quicker than those who start at 35 years old or 40 years old, right? Yeah. And that's a blessing.
Yeah, the average founder age is 40 in the US, kind of, I think 35 in Europe. So yeah, it's kind of high. I mean, not, yeah.
I think it's getting lower these days.
Is it? Yeah.
Probably. I mean, entrepreneurship is trendy as well since the last 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Especially thanks to, Mark Zuckerberg again, who is a beautiful success story. Yeah. And, I think inspired a lot of young people, young students who basically want to do the same thing, right? So Facebook is 1 in a billion, of course, but I mean, why not start early? I mean, there's nothing holding you back, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And moving to I think, I mean, not a fun part, but let's hear from you. What's your biggest mistake?
Ah, man, my biggest mistake, that's actually not negative at all. It's positive. I learned so much from my mistakes, and today it's helping me every day. And my biggest mistake, I think, was, once again, spending too much time on trying to build a big product too soon, right? When I actually should have, launched a product very fast and focus on user satisfaction, user feedback. And in my opinion, my mistake was not to get users on board as fast as I could. And yeah, maybe focus too much on the tech, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is a very common mistake to, not focusing on the user or, the end, the customer, and focusing on more in the product, because you're like, you've been working on this for a long time, and then you think it's good, but nah, like, you need to focus on the end user. I don't know if you watched the Silicon Valley, the show. No.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny one. So
yeah,
season 3, I think it is, when they launched the app, the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
They sent the beta version to their engineer friends, and so they said it was good, but it wasn't actually good for for people in general. And
exactly.
I think that's the key here.
Yeah, the product was too engineered. Yeah, I remember that part. It's a very funny show, and it's also very motivating, I think, this show, because it runs you through all the mistakes and all the hard the hard process of launching a startup, and all the like the bad investors, the bad co-founders, and everything. And it's a very good show. And to get back to the mistake per se, yeah, it's a very common mistake. It's it's like the solo entrepreneur syndrome. Like you're in a room on your own. You think about the product, you think it's the right way to do it, and then you just give that to users, and they don't seem to like it. And you're like, it's really it's really frustrating to build something and to think about it and to be very proud of it, and that you're the only one at the end of the day. Yeah. So get feedback really fast, and build the product that the users actually want. That's the way to do it.
Okay, cool. And so what's your the best place to start up in the EU? Or like, for example, you've started startups in Dublin and Paris. What's the best place?
It really depends on the type of startups that you want to build and launch. I'd say Dublin is great for tech startup. It's really the place to be in Europe, because of this atmosphere, the environment, the resources, the people, the advice, the tech investors as well. And then in Paris, you have other advantages, like you have a bit more grants, for example, for starting businesses. And so there is no right and wrong. But if I had to bet on a country in the coming years, I would say probably the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a lot of liberty and freedom in the way they operate and the way they run the businesses and the way they help the businesses after the Brexit.
You think that's going to be good? The Brexit? I think
that's going to be good for the UK, and I think it is actually quite good already. I see the pound, increasing, the pound's value increasing, and I think they're going to reduce the tax rate, bring more investors in, and maybe they will be a bit less open to the EU, but I think they will be more open to the world.
Okay.
And for relationships with the States, for example. And I think, in my opinion, and that we'll see in a few years, right? But I think London is going to be the place to be in tech in the next few years.
I mean, it is now for in Europe. It's the the hub, like the start hub of Europe already.
Yeah,
So
already. Yeah, of course.
yeah. And moving to one of the last questions here. How did you roll beta out? Like, yeah, how do you do it? And when do you decide your platform is ready to launch? Yeah.
Once again, the platform is ready to launch when it's with the less features possible. Usually for a beta. You're not happy with the platform you're launching. There is a saying that says, if you're happy with the MVP you're launching, it's not an MVP, right? Because you're supposed to be to deliver to launch it as fast as possible, and then therefore you can't have everything perfect, right? And so the best way to launch the beta is as soon as possible, I'd say.
Yeah.
And in regards to the users, I'd say it's a mix. It needs to be a mix of quantity of users and quality. So the number of users you bring in and the how these users are relevant to your business. I saw recently. I spoke to two entrepreneurs. One had a beta testing phase with 100 users. The other one had a beta testing phase with 13,000 users.
Wow.
Right? So it's enormous.
Yeah.
And they were both, unhappy with the results, because the first one with 100 users said, okay, we had feedback with really good quality users, right? Really relevant, but not enough to know at which point it can scale in the future, right? Yeah. And the other one was overwhelmed with the 13,000 users. You couldn't manage 13,000 users at first, of course. And he got a lot of feedback coming in. Sometimes the feedback wasn't relevant at all, and it made him miss out on the important feedback that would actually shape the future of the product. So I'd say a happy medium between 500 users seems okay, but once again it depends on each business. But yeah, it's good to have a limit and avoid, having too many users at first. And then, of course, when the product is ready and the beta phase is finished, let's move forward and scale as much as you can. But for the very beginning, I think it's not a good idea to have a lot of users.
Cool. Yeah, and at what level or at what phase is Kuddos right now? Is it are you going to scale like a lot in the next year, or?
Oh man, we're working hard every day in that, to do that, and it goes through a lot of automation, because Kuddos at the end of the day is an agency that builds products for other startups. And it's still very human centric. And so what we can automate and how we can scale things is by, it's the processes that need to be automated. Like, how do you have a scope of work? How do you generate, a quote for a client? How do you, make maybe a self-service kind of process? And that's what we're focusing on, and that's what will enable us as well to keep the quality that we can give to our clients, because the problem with scaling is that you sometimes lose on quality. But we want to avoid that.
Okay, cool. And one last question here. So what's your goal in life, and what do you want to be remembered for? I ask this question to every single guest. Because I feel like it's a funny one. They hate it. Probably you hate it too, but
no, I love it.
Yeah.
Very great question, because it's sometimes we forget about the most important stuff in life. My vision and the vision of the company I run, Kuddos, is to empower people. So that is by building products for them very fast and very in a very accurate accurate way of what they want, but it's also to help other people that are less fortunate than us, you know, maybe build a new life, learn a new job, and you know, help you know, people in the streets maybe get a house. And the way we do things is that low code is a great opportunity for anyone to learn a new job, you know, learn how to code, learn how to build products. And that's what we actually do at Kuddos. We train new people that want to learn how to become a low code developer. And we onboard them, and we give them a salary, we give them a job, and that will, you know, that allows them to get a new house, get a family, live comfortably. A good example of that is our first employee that was a beekeeper still 2 years ago.
Wow.
And we met him a year ago. And now he's our first, I trained him in 2020, and he's our first low-code developer, you know? And that's a beautiful story because he always was on the margin of society. And today he has a regular salary. He has a girlfriend. You know, he's happy in his life, and we're really happy to have him. And that is our vision, and it goes beyond money. You know, it's something we want to scale as well. We've proven that it works for one person, still the same approach. We want to scale this to 10 person, to 10 people, 10 and 100 people, and really build a community of you know, of people that came to us and that were less fortunate, and we give them a shot at life, a second chance, kind of, you know.
Wow.
And that is what we wake up for every morning, and that's what drives us.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know this part of the story. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we're, you know, it's I mean, what's the point of building a company if we don't have some social aspect behind it, you know? And that's why I said, you know, you need to keep what, you know, to remember what's important in life and how you can really make an impact, positive one, on the world. And I think it's one of, you know, it's one of them.
Cool. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks, Ambroise. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us here at Wifimilk.com, the podcast.
Thanks. It was great being invited. And thanks again, Roger, for the warm welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, retention of customers. I think there's an absolute desire to get customers in, and there's a real appetite. And that's where all the money goes. You know, if you think about when you talk about big numbers and you talk about growth plans, it's all about, I absolutely want to acquire new customers. And they forget that actually, you know, retain those customers. It will save you so much more acquisition money or acquisition dollars that you could be spending on acquiring prospects, true prospects, as opposed to reacquiring. So absolutely, it's very much about the retention stage, and it's a different skill set.